me? Okay. So I think I should mute everybody, until we have like questions. I'm not really sure how to do that. If you can mute yourself, that would be cool. Let me put my headphones on. Yancy? Okay, from the chat it looks like you can hear me okay. The barking dog, exactly. All right, then I can take this off. Woohoo! So we made it. Welcome to Magnetize Your Dream Clients. Post-Spreecast meltdown. Yeah, so I'm grateful that I have learned to magnetize the most awesome friends, clients, and attract entrepreneurs who are magical and understanding and can go with the flow. So important. So I'm Chris Oster, and this is my home office here with all my drums and a very small portion of my books. I have quite a vast library of, mythic and psychological and stories. I'm so in love with books and the written word. And so there you have it. I work mostly with visionaries who have a big mission. They have a big message to share, and sometimes they will feel, scared or nervous about being visible in that way because it is you're naked. I mean, people talk about authenticity and different truth and all of that, but when you're the one in front of the camera, in front of the microphone, in front of all the people writing the blog post, you realize just how naked you feel. So before we dive into these deep waters together, I just want to run through what we're going to be going over today in our agenda. So I'm going to go over 4 methods and 4 different lenses of looking into your personal myth and then incorporating that into your branding and marketing. So remembering your legend. So this is about tapping into the source of your stories and of your self-knowledge. It's deep soul work, and we could also call it psyche work. We're excavating the material that contains the seeds of who we are becoming. And myth has a telos, an intelligence that can take the past, present, and the future selves and integrate that. I talked a little bit about this in the handout, but we come into this world with our gifts and with a message. We're messengers, and we decide, we're the sovereigns of how we deliver that message. But the seed is there from the time you are born. You're bringing that. And then there's this kind of long, winding journey of U-turns and trying different things and going, this doesn't work, what will work? All of that is part of the entrepreneurial journey. There's no straight shot to the top. For some people, they may want us to think that's happened for them, but it's not part of the organic, like watery flow of the soul, how the soul works. The soul does not go in straight lines, it goes in spirals. And that's a whole nother class. So that's the first part, the first topic, the first lens. The second lens is called befriending the shadow. Because so much of ourselves lives, under the waterline, it's invisible. And as we allow the shadow figures to emerge and be more present, we begin to understand the connection between our vulnerability and our superpowers. And the shadow holds so much repressed power that really can be used for our own growth and integration. It's like the fertile shit that we need to grow. And I'm all about fertility and creativity for sure. And it's also fun to give ourselves permission to be weird, imperfect, and again, be our entire self. So we don't feel like, oh, I'm putting on a mask. And we can put on masks as entrepreneurs. We could be like Madonna and put on a different mask, or a Meryl Streep. But really, I guess if that, we could look at mask in that way as an aspect of your persona, an aspect of yourself. The soul is the self, the true self, that is the center. And I wouldn't say, we don't want to be, the dominating self, and I think that would be more of how the ego operates. It wants to control everybody and all these pieces of the psyche, tell them what to do and what to talk about. But the self is divine. The self is the God self, goddess self, the universal source, that part of you that is eternal. And it allowing that regulation to happen with the self is part of what I connected to, this idea of sovereignty. And again, that's another class. So the third topic we're going to go over is called pleasuring your audience. One of my favorite topics, because so many of us have this love-hate relationship with marketing. And really, if we look at it as it's just a love letter to our audience, to our tribe, it's just, again, changing our perspective on what marketing is. It's storytelling, it's communicating, and we're all here because we believe in non-sleazy promotion. We're all in this together. So the other part of this is, and this is again another class, a whole nother book and topic, but to expand on this a little bit is this pleasuring idea of pleasuring yourself before you write that blog post, before you write the sales page. Because any time we imbue ourselves with that essence of pleasure, we're broadcasting that out, and it makes other people feel better. So again, I believe that marketing can be a really beautiful opportunity for healing. It's kind of like if you look at the difference between film and television, like a book is like your whole message fleshed out and everything is, or it could be a play, film, whatever. So your work is this big giant opus, but what marketing does is it gives people the cracks and the little doors to get into that. Anyways, more on that in another class. I'm the queen of tangents, as you can see. And our fourth topic is revision your story. So we come back to the original story, the seed of it all. And I love to refer back to The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho because he says it so beautifully throughout that book. I have a class where we just create a brand map based on The Alchemist. I adore that story. And it's, when we finally catch that story, that's really, wow, this is the home, the coming home place for me. We end up rewriting everything. It's like everything has that telos perspective. So we go, oh, this is who I'm becoming. I'm home. I've always been home, but there is this expression that is kind of like it's weaving and then also an unraveling, and then reweaving what you've unraveled. So I think it's an exciting time for us as marketers that we can do this and have pretty free reign with it. So why use myth in your marketing? So myths are stories that carry a strong archetypal resonance, and this is why they stick around for eons. It's profoundly affirming to realize that your stories can reach out and find the person who matches its same frequency. We tend to think that, we're in charge. Again, that's the ego, and not that. And I always tell people, you never want to kill the ego. I mean, it's the sun. It's that part of us that's we don't want that part to be dominant. We want that part to be in coordination and partnership with the other parts of our being and our psyche. So we're really the finders and the seekers. And we're also like radio receivers, right? So we're picking up on channels of information all the time, because that's how we know scientifically it's proven that's the way the field works. We're all connected. All of these words and thoughts have all existed before. They all exist together in a matrix. So what we're doing half the time is we've got our little antenna up and we're picking up these little shards and pieces and then interpreting them through our lens of whatever mythology and whatever story we're working with. Before I go into the meat of the presentation, I want to talk about the age that we're living in now, this age of information that is so overwhelming. And, all the social media, all the different webinars. So again, thank you for being here. I know it was a little bit of a journey just to get to Google Hangouts. But I want to just pause quickly and read a poem by David White, who wrote The Heart Aroused and Crossing the Unknown Sea. It's really beautiful. It's called Loaves and Fishes. This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information. Forget the news and the radio and the blurred screen. This is the time of loaves and fishes. People are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000. I love that poem. And again, here we have, loaves and fishes. It's a direct reference to Jesus and his ability to miraculously feed masses of people through his faith. David White is just referencing that story, but it's such a part of our psyches already that even my daughter, before she even knew who Jesus was, had heard that story and was like, oh yeah, the guy who feeds all those people with bread and fish. It's like she knew that one, and in fact she still can talk about that one. She never talks about the Noah and the Ark story, but she loves the loaves and fishes story. So obviously, again, she has a resonance with that story for a purpose, and so it's connected to her gifts somehow. And plus, that story is it's a powerful story, and it's so archetypal, nurturing, feeding. How are we feeding our audience? How are we feeding the world with our gifts? So myths and stories like this are retold over and over in film and books and commercials because they're the language of the soul. And esoterically, throughout many cultures, the heart is the seat of the soul. And so I love when, I looked up heart, and there's the Heart Math organization, and they talk about how the magnetic field of the heart is 60 times greater in amplitude than the brain waves that they recorded over an EEG. So again, we're talking about magnetism. We are talking about the heart. What speaks to the heart and how we're speaking to the hearts of others. Okay, so I'm going to get into these 4 lenses that we're going to be looking through today. And the first one is remembering your legend. So I got this idea again from Paulo Coelho's book, The Alchemist. He talks about the dream, the personal legend, and that it's unique, and we're born knowing what it is. And it's our conditioning, the cultural and family dramas that tend to pull us away from that center. And in our quest to individuate ourselves, often through our livelihoods, we go on these adventures. We take lots of wrong turns. We fall in love. We fall apart. We lose ourselves. And then we come home. And again, this is a spiral journey. So we repeat this cycle of coming home many times over, I think, in our lifetimes. So as we continue to grow our businesses and revision, that's a lot of what's happening here. And all along the journey, there are signs that the universe sends us. And if you look closely enough, you begin to realize that the signs were there even when you were a child. I'm writing a book about this right now called Return to Enchantment. Hopefully it'll be, I'm in the second rewrites and it still needs work. But as part of that, I went through my own stories and dreams, and I was amazed because I've been chronicling my dreams for many, many years, and I went all the way back to when I was writing my dreams down. It looked like about age 16 or 17. I'm 46 now, so yeah, a lot of dreams, and they're all documented. I'm so grateful to have them. But every single dream has water in it, a body of water of some kind. I do have a dream about Yemaya coming to me, but even in dreams that weren't necessarily announcing a sacred or numinous event, there was still water. It could have been a room full of fish tanks with all the same colored fish, except there was one fish that's blue. So the symbolism for me has always been water. And it doesn't surprise me, all of us are gestated for 9 months in water. We're breathing water, we're floating in our mother's fluid. So the story that moved me the most as a child, actually, there were two. There were Hans Christian Andersen, and maybe there were three. The first one was The Little Mermaid. The second one was The Little Match Girl, and the other one was called, I think, was The Ugly Duckling. I think it was a Hans Christian Andersen version of that. And I seem to resonate with these kind of stories with sad events, but they pointed to a deeper spiritual truth. And something in those stories immediately drew me in to consider people's pain and how I could help them. And it's not such a far cry from the work I do today, which is to help magical people who have big missions and messages that they want to share to feel safe and to feel more confident about opening up in that way. And so they can let people know about their work and make a livelihood at it. So this is why I had you look at the characters that you love and the ones that you love to hate in that. So I'm going to give us a couple of minutes to do the second part of this exercise that I didn't put in the workbook, but thought that you could do it a little bit here or just after the webinar, but connected to this list that you had. On the left it was who you love, and on the right it was who you love to hate. And so looking at those characters, what themes or qualities jump out at you? Loyalty, heroism, triumph over adversity, love, relationships, the underworld. So for me, obviously, The Little Mermaid was a big one, and actually Maleficent was another huge one from childhood. I played Maleficent in a school play. I don't remember how old I was, but nobody wanted to take the part, and I was so excited about it because I just fell in love with this character. Like, yes, she's evil and interesting, and yeah, I just loved her. So when I went to redo my brand, my logo, because I never had a logo made, I just had pictures of me as a mermaid. Let's see here. I think I can share my screen. Okay. All right. So so my symbol of this winged, I guess we could call her a hybrid of angel, dragon, fairy. Shyla, for some reason you're showing up here. So if you can all mute yourselves until we until we ask questions, that would be helpful. I don't really know how to do it myself from here. All right. So anyways, one of the first logos she did for me was the double-tailed mermaid. I was like, okay, I love that, but it's way too Starbucks. It's not going to work for me. But what she came up with is absolutely gorgeous. I love Voget's chocolates. Voget's logo is this beautiful smoky plum that you see there, so I ripped them off. Yeah, so I will show you some Pinterest. So here's the Pinterest mood board I created for the artist. So you can kind of see where she got some of these ideas. But yeah, the Melusine or Melusina myth is also an important part, so we could see some of that influence. So Melusina, she's a water creature, magical, but she's more of like a part dragon serpent kind of woman. So I incorporated that as well. Okay. There we go. So that kind of gives you just an idea of how I use myth in my own marketing and maybe ways that you can start to look at adding it into yours. So back to this question, the characters on your sheet from that exercise, what themes or qualities jump out at you? And if you're watching this as a recording, you might want to just go ahead and stop the recording here and take your time with this exercise. And if you don't have that workbook, simply spend a moment thinking of one character that was your all-time favorite and why they were your favorite. So we're going to move on to topic 2, befriending the shadow. And this has always been the most popular topic. It's the second week of the Bewitched class that I do. And it's, first getting in touch with your shadow and allowing it to have a voice. It's like getting a permission slip that we've been waiting for all our lives. So all of a sudden people begin to think of ways that their shadow can contribute to their businesses. Blog posts are written with a much more vulnerable voice, and they're much more engaging than the usual run-of-the-mill, blah, 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 let's talk about this. Allowing your shadow to come out and play gives other people permission to do the same. So your audience can feel like they can be themselves, and they don't have to be perfect, because squeaky clean these days is suspect. We don't really trust people that are so, I don't know, everything's perfect and happy and great. And not to say that we want people to be depressed and unhappy, but we want to see the full range of the human experience, not just one-sidedness. And our intuition knows when someone's hiding something. Or overcompensating for something. It's usually pretty obvious. And even if we don't know what's really happening, we might still go, "Ooh, I just don't trust them. I don't know why," but something in your intuition says, "No, this isn't working for me." This is also something we could be playful with. It doesn't have to be so dark and dreary. A lot of shadow work has gotten a bad rap. Um, it's, you know, the shadow, is many things. So it could represent the energy of unexpressed, repressed, and rejected aspects of yourself. And these can be both negative and positive. Um, it's the hidden or denied emotions that can turn ugly and destructive. In dreams, shadows often appear as monsters, but they're also shapeshifters, wizards, witches, selkies, werewolves, vampires, or animal guides. Shadows can show up as animal guides as well. Um, and there is a specific function to the shadow. It is to challenge the hero and give her or him a worthy opponent. So the hero or the heroine in you is the ego. And a healthy ego is needed, as we talked about earlier, to dialogue with the shadow. And I like to look at the shadow really compassionately, not as a dragon or a monster that needs to be slayed. So again, this idea of befriending the shadow, we're not going off with her head. It's not Medusa, the myth of Medusa, which I think is a really good example of how killing off what we don't know, killing off the dragon, chopping off its head, is really a destructive, not constructive way to deal with the shadow. And the shadows have a touch of goodness and a vulnerable side that humanizes them. And what I love to look at, when you look at like Maleficent, especially now that there's been a remake of her, the shadow figure does not see itself as a shadow. The shadow figure sees the hero as the villain. Like, hey, I'm just trying to do my thing here, and you're the one coming after me. What have I ever done? So and there's a little bit of a twist there when you kind of turn it around. And shadows can also be unexplored potentiality, like roads that you haven't taken, just the unknown in general. So one of my most successful blog series was called Let Your Shadow Be CEO for a Day. And I think I had about 5 guest posts, and I still have more waiting in the wings that I'm going to release over this next few months. And the first one was written by Sandy Davis. It's called Get the Fucking Tattoo Already. And it's great. I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing, but it's on my website, and it's one of the most popular blog posts or guest posts that I've gotten. And I know I received about 10 signups just from that post, and Sandy received, I think, 5 or more also signed up for her list from that post. And then another kind of offshoot of what happened when I posted that blog to my Facebook wall. I had just gotten a new client, and I wasn't quite sure about her. She seemed very nice, but we just didn't really connect. But she saw my blog post and called me immediately afterwards and was like, I really cannot work with someone who puts bad language on their Facebook wall. And she said, would you delete it? And I said, well, actually, no, I'm not willing to delete it. This is who I am, so I'm probably not the right person for you to be working with. And she was like, okay, fair enough. And so we peacefully ended our very new, I think we just talked to each other that day when she was getting ready to send me money and send me a deposit for her website, and it never happened. And thank goodness I was just being myself, because had that happened later, after I had her money, and again, things can get really messy. So the more you're yourself from the get-go, I think it's not only being true to yourself, but it's also it's like a symbol of, it's a symbol or a sign to people who are looking at you and at your work and go, yes, this is so the right person for me, or no, this is so not the right person for me, because you don't want the no people. This is another reason why we want to magnetize dream clients as opposed to not dream clients. All right, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Topic 3, close to my heart, is pleasuring your audience. Knowing what gives your tribe pleasure is the surest and fastest way to their hearts. And again, hearts, magnetism, keep thinking of it in that way. And it's also a way to make great sales, because it feels like crack, feels like that's what I need, but we want it on the positive way. Obviously, we want it to be addictive in the best fashion, so we're not creating negative karma for that. So you can apply this pleasure principle to your business and your marketing. And one of my mentors is Melissa Cassera, and she really has built a very huge successful business on the pleasure principle. So I'm going to do a screen share of her website, so you can just see it firsthand. Okay, so Melissa Cassera, right there at the top. Does your business feel like a guilty pleasure? So she is living, breathing her brand. And then you go to her Work With Me page. I've taken many of her workshops, and when she was offering one-on-one, like kind of one-off sessions, like strategy sessions, I did a couple with her, and they were very beneficial. So want to make headlines but hate promoting your business. The secret is turning your publicity plan into a total guilty pleasure. So the media feels like a Game of Thrones marathon topped off with a Gossip Girl rerun. So she also likes to take things that she loves and gives her pleasure and weaves them in. So that way, if you're also a Game of Thrones fan or Gossip Girl fan, you can be like, oh my God, she gets me. So she's really, really genius at doing this. So yeah, I recommend, if you want to learn more about infusing your brand not only with mythology but with your personality, take a look at her site, because she's really great. See, I think I have a few other things to say about Melissa. Let me check my notes here. So yeah, like looking at her offerings, 1,000 times yes. How to go down on bended knee and create a business offering that'll have your dream customer screaming, yes, yes, I do. How to be a guilty pleasure. So her offerings are really on brand, and I really love that about her. So she offers different sorts of courses, but at the same time, they're all tied into her brand promise, which is making you feel pleasure when you work with her, and then how to help other people feel like a pleasure when they're working with you. She also loves reading and writing erotica. She's definitely expressing a very Aphroditic sort of archetype here. And now I'm not saying go out and become Melissa Cassera, of course. What I'm suggesting is to learn more about pleasure and how to bring your own flavor of pleasure into your marketing. One of my plunge clients is Helen Hodgson, who is a retreat leader and mobile spa owner, and she owns Serve the Goddess, who I'm just showing that website here now. Her entire business is built on the pleasure principle and connecting this with self-care and self-love. I love this goddess spa packages, and of course here's Aphrodite all over the place. It's like, okay, we've got Aphrodite in the room here. So she's got spa packages that speak to the archetype of Aphrodite for these women, for Aphrodite women, and they actually have their own spa package designed specifically for them. Now, how cool and on brand is that? And I helped her work on this for the plunge. This was something we worked on together. She's got one for Artemis. She's got one for Athena. You know, I'm such an Athena woman. Strategy and vision turn you on like nothing else. You have mastered the arts of mental imaging and debate, and you've worked hard and smart to get all the way to the top of your game. You set high standards for yourself, and you shoot for the moon and the sun. So this particular spa package, it says it's time to get out of your head into your gorgeous body and connect with your feminine side. So for an Athena woman, here is hot stone massage, spa manicure, and hand massage. That sounds fantastic. There's one for Demeter and one for Persephone. Just amazing, amazing. And then she also does these goddess retreats that are absolutely incredible. A day in the life of an ancient Greek goddess. And there's a picture of her right there. I mean, she's just absolutely, oops, that's not a very good, weird cutout there. She's absolutely stunning and really embodies her archetype in her branding and in all of her offerings. So, you know, to weave your own flavor of pleasure into your brand, you can begin by talking to your dream clients about what brings them pleasure, as well as getting in touch with your own guilty pleasures, as Melissa likes to call them, and begin sprinkling them into your copy for blog posts and sales pages. And also images. Images are so powerful, and not necessarily you have to have images of yourself as your archetype, but one of the most powerful and brand building, success building things I've done for my business was taking pictures in a mermaid's tail. So it really helped me. It's a lot of fun too to, like, again, wear these different hats and personas and masks to see who you could be. So the question for this section that I would love for you to riff on, and maybe again you do this, you know, after you go back to the recording and stop the recording so you could actually work on it. But the question is, how well do your current offerings reflect the essence of your brand? And a hint, look at the qualities and themes generated from your fave characters and begin to see if there's a match. So there we have it. Topic 4, revision your story. Okay, I'm going to get myself back on camera again. Here we go. I think there's a couple of you left here. You guys are such troopers. Imagination is everything. It's the preview of life's coming attractions. So that's a very famous quote from Albert Einstein that I love, 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 because it, again, it ties into my work and my brand. This idea that imagination is this creative matrix, and we do create out of our imagination. And for me, the imagination and the mythic are real. And even though at times they are invisible, that does not make them less real. And by using your imagination, you could play with the truths of your brand and find new paths, opportunities, and ways to move your business's story into the future. So revisioning, moving something forward, rewriting, reweaving something. And what I want to say here is ultimately you have the power to decide what is true for you right now. And flushing out past beliefs or truths that were adopted either from your family, from our society, helps bring consciousness around self-limiting thoughts and habits. So after exploring your stories more and especially the stories that you're telling others about, either whether or not that's a blog post or you're just in conversation. Be mindful where ways that you are giving away your power, or you're covering up your true self, or trivializing things. I mean, I found that I've had a tendency to trivialize this mermaid energy, and I'm really looking deeply at that and working with that as, how can I really make this more sacred, because it is sacred to me. Why am I making it just, a guilty pleasure? So to me, that would be a difference between Melissa and I. I feel like the sacred holds such a special place for me and in my heart that I feel like I need to write about it and speak about it in ways that are more sacred, and not just about pleasure and fun and play, which are sacred as well. But I guess, I could see the places where I was trivializing my own power and my own sacredness. So I'm working with that. Just, we're always working with something, right? It's never, oh, I've got it all figured out now. Never happens. It never will. So you raise that expectation from your mind forever and ever. And it's more fun exploring, and that openness and rawness and vulnerability is so much more attractive than, hey, I know what I'm doing every second of the day. It's like, bullshit. We know that. So what else? What I would like to do is do a physical exercise. It's a body prayer, Kundalini yoga move that really helps, the fifth chakra. So we're, marketing, communications, we're dealing with fifth chakra, which is located at the throat. In Sanskrit, it's called Vishuddha, and that means purify. So to me, again, we're going, this magnetizing ability from the heart, has to be connected to the throat chakra, because it's going to go from the heart, out to the world, and through writing, speaking, music, whatever it is that your gift is. So this is a really cool move, and it's very simple. So you can have an intention or not. You can have an intention of, I want to feel more comfortable about revealing my true self in my marketing. That could be a really good intention for you right now. And you could come up with your own, of course. So what you do is you put your hands on your shoulders, and you start slow, and you turn slowly to the left, and you inhale in fresh prana, fresh air. You turn to the right, and you exhale through your nose or your mouth, and you're exhaling out any kind of obstacles, stress, negative energy. So turn to the left and inhale positive, fresh, new prana into your intention, and as you turn to the right, breathe out, exhale all the negative. So I'm not going to explain more. I'm just going to do just a quick round of this. So go ahead and inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And as you're doing this, you're going to start feeling warm. And you can kind of speed it up a little bit if you want to. And then just come back to center and put your arms down. Your arms might be a little tired too. And close your eyes. And I feel like a lot of circulation and energy moving all from the middle of my chest all the way up to my ears. And I'm feeling my arms are tingly, my hands are tingly too. I also love to do a similar thing right after this called, what's it called? Stirring the cauldron. So I'll stand up a little bit so you can kind of see my hips. But what you do here is this kind of brings a similar kind of energy into your pelvic area, which is, you know, your creativity, your fertility, your center, this whole area here. And what I like to do is I just start circling out. Sorry, you can't really see my face. And I just go really slow circles. I start in one direction. And then you're almost like, you could see I'm kind of pushing my butt in the back. And then I kind of push it out to like one side. And then I'm kind of like even bending back a little bit, like arching my back. And then I'm moving here to the right and kind of pushing that hip out. And just kind of, you know, you can close your eyes here and just visualize that inside your pelvis is this beautiful cauldron filled with fluid. And what you're doing is you're kind of bringing all the debris out from the bottom. So go ahead and change direction now as you keep visualizing this cauldron or this beautiful chalice filled with liquid. And you're just stirring things up. There we go. And anything that needs to be like released will like uncrust off the bottom of this pelvic bowl. It just, you know, things can get stuck there. And you can change directions many times as you want, and then you can make smaller circles, go faster, and just see anything crusty or old or blech, stagnant, just begin to be dissolved as you're stirring it up. It's almost like, you know, if you take a glass of water and you put salt in it and you keep stirring it, the salt dissolves into the water. So you're taking these big chunks and particles and making them finer and finer and finer until they are just floating and dissolved into this beautiful liquid. So there we have a little bit of physical movement for us. I don't think it's good for us to sit for too long and not move. I find movement shifts the body, drumming shifts the body, singing, chanting, all of that. Anytime you do that before working on your marketing, I think will really help you, again, bring out your essence. And not that I don't think I'm ever have a moment where I'm not afraid of pushing, you know, a post or publish button when I've written something that really pushes my edges, that really takes me out of my comfort zone. Anytime I do that, I'm always feeling that fear and excitement at the same time, because like, ooh, I'm showing a true piece of myself, and it's really like raw and vulnerable, and people can just crucify me for this. But at the same time, the releasing of it is purifying because it is meant to be released. So we're going to do a jam now. Just this is a writing exercise, and I just call it Truth Telling Your Brand. And it's really beneficial, again, for purifying, because you just keep writing. The truth of my brand is whatever comes to your mind stream of consciousness. The truth of my brand, you just for 5 minutes, you set a timer, and you keep writing. The truth of my brand is this. The truth of my brand is that. And then you don't really stop to censor it, but you go back after the timer goes off and see wow, what came out of that? I've had taglines come out of that. I've had new products and services come out of that. So it's really a powerful exercise, especially if you do the Kriya Yoga first, then do Stir the Cauldron second, sit down and do your truth telling your brand. And of course, if you have other ways of shifting your energy before having sex, an orgasm, doesn't mean you have to have sex with somebody else, but boy, your writing is going to be really different if you have that kind of whoosh, heart opening, a good cry, a good run, dancing, drumming, all of this will help shift your energy to get closer to that home place, that heart place that you want to be working from. So when you go back and look at, were there any truths that came up repeatedly more than others? So again, kind of like your favorite characters, what kind of themes are popping out at you? So I'm just going to tell you some of the ones that came up for me when I first did this exercise, I think like a year ago. The truth of my brand is that it is based on generosity. The truth of my brand is that it is mutually beneficial for me and others. The truth of my brand that it's about loving my audience. The truth of my brand is that it's about being true to the images being birthed through the psyche. The truth of my brand is I want to serve thousands of entrepreneurs. The truth of my brand is that I want to have freedom. So yeah, I was like, okay, so here's my brand. It's telling me what it is. It's showing me what it wants. And so then what I did from there, and what you can do, is start breaking these down into themes that would tie in. So the themes that seem to tie into my brand truth-telling are generosity, mutually beneficial, loving my audience, being truthful, being authentic, transformation, in service to thousands, and freedom. So, again, when you have time to go back, or if you're watching this recording, go ahead and pause here and do the exercise. Set a timer, always work with the timer. It just makes everything like bubble up to the surface, and it's a lot more focused. So I wanted to end on this question, and again, it's another one that you can jam on later in your journal, is if your only real obligation was to realize your personal legend, how would you change your business, your brand, and your life? So that's kind of the big question, sort of takeaway that that overlights this whole idea of magnetizing. If your only real obligation was to realize your personal legend, how would that change your business, your brand, and your life? So I'll leave it at that. I did have a couple of questions, and they were pasted in the Spreecast. So let me go back and maybe retrieve them. Let me put on my. So Yancy or Victoria, did you want to ask a question while you have me on the phone here? Okay, can I talk about having multiple interests within your brand? Absolutely. So, gosh, I have a lot of interests. And I've had strategists tell me before, you've got your drumming stuff here, you've got this myth stuff, you've got this Yemaya sadhana, you've got business workshops. you're going to confuse the hell out of people. You shouldn't do this. I've had lots of people tell me that. So I'm not really a very good rule follower, and I'm definitely can be rebellious. And does that hurt my brand? I feel like the lack of focus in what I offer has made it so my business has grown more slowly. I think how some people play this and strategize for multiple kinds of offers and interests in your brands is that they focus on one thing first and get really well known and then do kind of a gradual shift. Yeah, I shift constantly. So I am definitely a shapeshifter. That is part of my brand archetype. If I had the kind of money Madonna has, I would have like a huge like photo shoot and every single different character that I feel a resonance with, because I love being the diamond facets, reflecting all of those pieces. I think it's really beautiful, and I'm interested in people who also are more like me. And again, the question remains, if you're more focused, I think your brand can grow faster, your list will grow faster perhaps. So I don't know how well that answered your question, but I think people will give you a lot of different answers to that, and I gave you the best one I think I could. Yeah, if you have more questions, go ahead and put them in chat. I'm just going to look up on Facebook. Okay. All right, this is from Shyla. She wanted to ask if I ever feel like I can't be my complete self online. And, oh yeah, there are definitely moments of doubt. I'm always surprised at how much I expect myself to be over that. Like, shouldn't I be over that by now? I don't think it's something we ever get over. We're always somewhat excited or nervous when we do something new, when we express a different part of ourselves. So there's definitely parts of me that I don't show online yet. And will I ever? I don't know. I mean, they come out in other parts of my life. Like if I feel really comfortable around my husband, I'm going to be like, well, me, snickety and the negative. Oh my God. I mean, I could really get on a downer if I'm in that space. And generally, I don't tend to go online when I'm in that sort of, placement. But if I do, I'll usually ask for like someone tell me a joke, someone make me laugh. I mean, please help. I feel like, blah. Yeah, laughter for me is a really great way for me to get out of my I have a Saturnian melancholy. I've had it since I was a child. So I don't really talk about it that much in my branding, but I think sometimes it comes through in its own way. You guys would have to tell me that if it does or it doesn't. But so let's see. And Yancy, you said that you're about to tweak your branding and revamp your website to just be yourself. And I'm so excited to see how that turns out. Yay! I think it's so awesome. And it's brave. There'll never be a moment when you're not doing something that requires courage, and being an entrepreneur at least. So kudos to you, darling. I'm proud of you. I know someone emailed me. the question. So I'm opening up my email real quick here. And I think her name is Kimberly. Oh boy, everything's acting all wonky. So I don't remember her exact question, but here's kind of the gist. Kimberly asked, she works in a very conservative, male-dominated corporate setting. And she says that her strength is really being gentle and relational and, all those feminine qualities. So she's like, well, how do I bring that into the corporate structure or into a more conservative, business setting? And I do have other clients that also took the plunge with me that had a similar sort of scenario where they had corporate clients on one hand and then the more entrepreneurs and individual solopreneur kind of clients who they marketed to totally differently. And eventually, if at first it feels okay to separate the two, and eventually they say, I can't do it anymore. I feel like there's a split in me. And there's a lot of different ways to deal with this. But my feeling is being yourself in a corporate conservative setting that's more oppressive. You could either leave that situation and really put yourself in the situation that you will thrive in. That's one way to do it. The other way is to stay where you are and be yourself. And will that create waves? It most likely will. And at the same time, when I've had similar issues, like I was telling about the lady who didn't like my putting the word "get the fucking tattoo already" on my Facebook wall, I peacefully let those people be where they are and be who they are and just say, this is who I am. You're not digging it, then that's okay. And it's not like it's you. I hate saying it's your problem. It just feels kind of whiny and I don't know. But it ultimately is their decision who they want to hang with and who magnetizes to them. But my feeling is if you are the kind of person who finds themselves in a setting that's not so easy to be yourself in, that there are people there like you, but they maybe aren't showing themselves because they haven't seen that side of you yet either. Anyways, I hope that answers the question that Kimberly had. Looking at the chat now. And Yancy left some cool notes. Okay, so because I'm connecting more to my personal legend, like I said, I'm really working with how more sacred and magical I can make my offerings as opposed to just being straight business, straight myth, which I don't think I could ever really be anything less hybrid-y than I already am. But again, I don't want to trivialize what my gift is. So I am reopening the plunge. It was my 45-day one-on-one immersion. And I stopped doing it about a year ago because I felt like, people were having very profound shifts, tears, laughter, totally redoing their business based on what we were working on together. So it wasn't that it didn't work or that it wasn't profound. It never felt quite like it was right for me. So I stopped doing them about a year ago, and I'm going to start taking people again in the fall for the plunge, and it's going to be pretty new because I'm really beginning to incorporate path working, which is, I would say it's a form of shamanism. And I'm going to be consciously putting that on the sales page. So it's not like the sales page is going to say all of this business stuff and then not say what the magical parts are. And that felt really, made me again feel naked, made me feel a little bit insecure and shaky. So it's going to be up on my site, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks. I did a first draft, and it was like, yeah, it's not quite there, because I keep leaving out the magic part. I keep rewriting it. It's like, oh, it's getting better and better, but I still haven't put the magic part into it, and the esoteric part into it, which is so important to me, and it's such a part of the mysticism. It's a huge part of who I am becoming, and again, coming back home to myself. So, it's really a way for me to give my gift of magic, my gift of witnessing, this sacred witnessing, and the synthesis and the storytelling. And I'm working this all into my book as well. So it's all really working together for me in beautiful ways. And I really appreciate and love having the ability to get together with you and talk about what I'm doing and maybe ways that you can find your own way into this work and just feel sacred and beautiful and in love with yourself and in love with your brand. All right. So I think I'm going to, Victoria said, talk to Yemaya about adding the magic to the plunge. I know, you're the second person that said that. Oh my gosh. Of course, again, I'm always going back to, well, I should know that. But that's the thing. When you're in your own work and your own process, you don't see it. So I'm thankful for you, Victoria. Thank you for the mirror. And thank you all for watching. Have an amazing, amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.